Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are absolutely going to tear down those picture-perfect Instagram myths of off-grid living. And we're going to rebuild the whole concept from the ground up using first principles. We're getting way past the expensive gear, the confusing jargon, and those frankly unrealistic promises to understand the real core ideas behind starting an off-grid lifestyle. By the end of this, you'll have a rock-solid, wholesome understanding of how to make smarter first decisions without getting lost in all the hype.
So take a second and really ask yourself, what does it actually mean to live off-grid? Most people immediately picture this massive shopping list of expensive solar panels, giant water tanks, and all those shiny high-tech gadgets. They kind of think it's just about buying a bunch of stuff and escaping to a remote cabin in the woods somewhere. But is that really what it takes to build a resilient household?
While there is a stark contrast between that romantic fantasy and the actual reality. The fantasy is this idea of total independence, right? Achieved just by throwing money at gear. But the reality? Off-grid living is actually all about managing a connected cost system. If you strip away the glossy brochure marketing, it literally boils down to how you replace paid city utility services with your very own system of choices. Crucially, off-grid living is not an isolated place on a map. It's an active, ongoing system of choices. Basically, you're moving costs around intelligently to recreate the minimum functions of a livable home. Think of it kind of like setting up a small irrigation setup near the fields outside Yarra. If you want water, you don't just go out and buy a pump. You have to think about the pipe length, the storage capacity, the timing, the maintenance. The system itself matters far more than any single item you buy.
All right, let's dive into Section 1. Power, water, and waste, the three essentials.
To truly wrap our heads around this cost system, we have to look at the inescapable triad of biological and mechanical needs. Now, these aren't just separate topics you can pick and choose from, they are the absolute core load of daily living. First, power. This really means usable energy over time, and the hidden question you have to ask is, can I get energy exactly when I need it? Then, water. It isn't just digging a well, it means having a safe, stored, and movable supply. The hidden question there is, can I keep enough clean water available? And finally, waste, the one everyone ignores. This means safe removal and treatment. You have to ask, can I live here without contamination? I mean, if even one of these fails, your whole off-grid plan starts to seriously wobble.
Consider this idea for a second. A battery is not the power itself. It is the waiting room for power. I love that. A lot of people think having power just means having solar panels on the roof. But having blazing sunlight at midday absolutely doesn't matter if your ceiling fan needs to run at night, right? Think of it like charging your phone before a long trip. That charge is only useful if it's actually available when you need to make a call. It's all about matching supply to demand across time. Because of that, the hidden structure of power always relies on three things: generation, storage, and use. Think of filling a bottle from a hand pump. The pump is your generation. That's where the energy comes from. The bottle is your storage, where the energy waits. And drinking from the bottle, well, that's your use. Now, if the bottle is tiny, you're going to run out quickly. But if the pump is weak, the bottle never fills up in the first place. So throwing solar panels at a problem is never the whole answer. The entire life cycle has to balance out perfectly. And it's the exact same logic with water. Water has a journey: source, storage, and treatment and distribution. It's exactly like putting a kitchen pot on a cold stove. Raw water doesn't magically become useful just because it exists on your property. It has to be captured, filtered, stored safely, and then distributed to your sink or shower. A water tank is incredibly valuable because it gives you control over the timing of your water usage.
Okay, now we get to waste. This is definitely the most ignored part of the off-grid conversation for sure, but it absolutely defines whether a place feels livable or totally miserable. Think about cleaning up after a big meal. Eating is the fun, visible part, but the table still needs clearing, the dishes need washing, and the leftovers need handling. If you don't safely separate used water, food scraps, and human waste from your immediate living space, well, your beautiful, expensive power setup won't save you from an unhealthy home.
Moving right along to Section 2, designing a starter setup.
So, our main goal here is building a minimum working system without falling into that classic trap of overbuying gear or, worse, solving the wrong problem first. To do this, we need to start thinking in thresholds. What's a threshold? Well, it's the minimum level where something crosses from being fragile to being functional. Like a light bulb is only useful if power is available exactly when you flip the switch.
A starter setup isn't about reaching some perfect glossy homestead magazine cover on day one. It's simply about reaching a stable baseline where the home is safe and predictable, especially during interruptions.
And this brings us to what is easily the most powerful filter question you can ever ask yourself. Which failure would hurt first? Let's imagine a small household in Punjab, maybe someone like Shahzad, trying to reduce their dependence on a really unstable city supply. The immediate temptation is to buy a massive, highly visible solar system first. But if their real, actual daily pain point is that the water supply constantly comes and goes, then the smartest first move is actually a modest water storage system. You absolutely must solve the home's most damaging inconsistency first to actually reduce your fragility.
Which leads us straight into our trade-off engine. Every single off-grid system requires trade-offs. You are never magically removing cost. You are just deciding where that cost lives. For instance, you trade higher upfront costs for lower monthly bills. You trade ultimate flexibility for maintenance simplicity. And you trade space and money for the reliability of battery or water storage. Every single choice you make just shifts these balances around.
So, what does a sensible starter setup actually look like? Well, it covers your essential daily needs, it can easily tolerate short interruptions, it's super easy to understand and maintain, and crucially, it leaves room to expand later. A good starter system is not a dead end. It gives the household immediate breathing room and clarity. If you build it well, later upgrades are a breeze. But if you build it poorly, basically every future upgrade just becomes a really expensive repair job.
Okay, final part. Section 3. Idea to off-grid lifestyle. We are now turning all this foundational knowledge into practical, everyday judgment. Now, when you see a flashy new product pitch, you can step back and think in systems instead of single items. You can compare your options by their actual, real-world trade-offs, not just their shiny marketing labels. You can look at a plan and instantly recognize, hey, does this make my household stable, or is it just adding unnecessary, complex, fragile gear? So, I'll leave you with one final thought. Off-grid is not a pile of gear. It is the design of a household. It's all about creating a home that still makes total sense when outside support is reduced. So, armed with this structural understanding of power, water, and waste, I ask you, what exact first step are you going to take to reduce your own home's fragility today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep building smart.